Russia just exposed America's secret Bitcoin plan in the same week that two of Russia's closest neighbors both announced their plans to create a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Let's dive straight into this clip where Putin's special advisor dropped a bombshell. And I will have to translate this for you guys, so I'm not going to just play the clip. I'm not here alone. Nico actually made it today, but I do have the clip for you guys. It is in Russian, so I'm going to read the subtitles here. This is apparently accurate information here, but I don't speak Russian. So if you do speak Russian, let us know if this is not the right take. All right, anyways,
let me see. But the source is legit.
The source is official, and I double checked the source. It came from Russia Direct, and then it came from forumvolstock.ru. So this isn't AI is basically what I'm saying. So here, I'm going to play this. I will talk over this, so I'll put this a little quiet for you guys, and let's see what they say. So the U.S. is now trying to rewrite the rules of the gold and cryptocurrency markets. Remember, the size of their debt is 35 trillion. Well, it's actually 37 trillion. But these two sectors, crypto and gold, are essentially alternatives to the traditional global currency system. Washington's actions in this area clearly highlight one of its main goals: to urgently address the declining trust in the dollar. As in the 30s and the 70s, the U.S. plans to solve its financial problems at the world's expense. This time by pushing everyone into the, quote, crypto cloud. Over time, once part of the U.S. national debt is placed into stablecoins, Washington will devalue that debt. Put simply, they have a $35 trillion currency debt. They'll move it into the crypto cloud, devalue it, and start from scratch. That's the reality for those who are so enthusiastic about crypto. So again, this is Putin's advisor, Kobyakov, I believe is how you say his name. And this is something that I've kind of been talking about here on the show for a long time, the Bitcoin dollar system. This is what I've been explaining the last couple of weeks is the real push from Washington into stablecoins is exactly what is being exposed here. Now, if you're a Bitcoiner, maybe you're wondering, like, what's this have to do? It's about stablecoins. Remember what we've heard around the rumor block for a minute. The reason we're seeing Washington push so hard into stablecoins is because of this very reason. And further, when they do push into stablecoins, this really just means that Bitcoin is going to go nuclear after this. And so there's a good graphic here, a meme. Wow, a meme for you guys here. This one's from Tefra Digital, and it goes, Bitcoin, stablecoins, U.S. Treasuries. A powerful flywheel is taking shape. Bitcoin fuels stablecoin growth. Stablecoins boost U.S. Treasury demand, and then stablecoins reinforce demand for Bitcoin as digital savings, and we're only at the beginning. Oh, wait, I didn't pull it up. Sorry, guys. Here's the meme for you guys. Anyways, we've been talking about this for a while now, and there is a lot of information globally going on that people are, in fact, losing trust in the dollar. Yes, we've heard the Mar-a-Lago Accords where they're essentially saying we want a strong dollar. In reality, they want low interest rates, and they want to weaken the dollar's position so that the free money will flow. And this is why I believe, and I'm not alone here, I'm not the one to create this idea, but this is why I believe the Trump administration, Scott Bessent, Donald Trump, everyone in the Trump administration, like David Sachs, etc., this is why they are pushing the stablecoin legislation. This is why the stablecoin legislation went through first, is because they actually think they can solve their debt problem through stablecoins. Obviously, the way the financial system works right now is they need buyers of treasuries. The way stablecoins are so profitable is they basically buy treasury, short-term treasuries, and then they roll the profits into Bitcoin. Now, if they need a buyer of treasuries, and the only buyer that wants to buy it right now is stablecoins, then this is why they're trying to roll out the stablecoin legislation first, is because they think they can essentially print their way out of this. They think they can devalue their debt and essentially pay pennies on the dollar in today's dollars on that debt. And this is where a lot of doomers would probably say this is the global monetary reset that we are seeing. And this is where probably the more conspiracy-minded people are like, digital currencies is the end-all be-all here. And this is why you don't want to buy Bitcoin. In our reality, in our view, it's the opposite. The only way out of this is to buy Bitcoin. Again, if they destroy the currency, if they're trying to print their way out of debt, then they're going to basically flood the zone with a lot of liquidity, a lot of dollars, a lot of government debt, and then that's going to drive inflation up, which means the only things that are going to be of value is, of course, Bitcoin. Now, it is interesting that this is coming out of Russia. Of course, they are one of the global superpowers. I think they are either listening to Bitcoiners or they're doing their own independent research, but this is the game, guys. I've been saying this for weeks now. Other people have been saying this for years, like our boy Mark Goodwin. Mark Moss has been on this beat as well. I think this is the game being played, and if you're not paying attention, you're probably going to get blindsided. If you're holding dollars right now, there's probably no hope for you moving forward. Now, that's not to be a full doomer here, because obviously all you have to do, in my opinion, and Nico's opinion, and all the Bitcoiners' opinion, is just start saving in Bitcoin. So if you know that this is the game plan, they want to, remember Scott Bessent said that the stablecoin market's going to go to $100 trillion. Like, they want to expand this sector so much because they need a buyer of treasuries. And with that all, of course, assets are going to go up. This is why I've heard and been kind of mentioning this idea that I think we're underestimating how high they want Bitcoin to run. And by they, I mean Trump and Scott Bessent. They need Bitcoin to rip so that they can, in fact, basically squash $37 trillion of debt into the Bitcoin market cap. And this is what's going on. And if you're looking at all the numbers, and I will kind of connect this towards the end of the show, that there are a lot of problems in the system right now. There is a lot of uncertainty going on in the world, and we don't know what exactly is going to happen, but there has been a lot of calls from very influential investors, hedge fund managers, really smart people. The most famous, of course, is Ray Dalio and his whole debt crisis. He's been beating this drum. We are in a debt spiral right now. We are in a debt crisis. And if the U.S. can't figure this out, it's going to get really bad for a lot of people. Now, do I think it's going to work out? I don't think so, because I don't think stablecoins are a solution for inflation. All they're going to do is essentially devalue their debt, pay it off. But if they print more money, this does not stop inflation. This is why we love Bitcoin. This is why the 21 million hard cap is so important. So, look, we're not the only ones that have been talking about this. Now it is happening, and these conversations are happening at the nation state level. So this is the game, guys. If you're not paying attention, you probably should be. They want to expand the stablecoin market. They want to devalue their debt. The only way to really protect yourself is assets. We've seen gold run. Gold's at all-time high. This is probably the strongest move we've seen since the great financial crisis. And there is no demand for treasuries except for basically the stable coins and those people that are forced to buy treasuries. So there's really, in my opinion, only one thing you can do, and that's, of course, just buy Bitcoin. Right now is the time to be, protecting yourself, saving in Bitcoin, because this is not going to happen overnight, but this is what's happening. They are destroying your purchasing power in the dollar. They're destroying your savings if you're holding the dollar. There is no returns in treasuries. So if you're one of those more TradFi investors and you're holding treasuries, you're probably panicking. And I have some data for you guys later in the show about a lot of selling going on in equities. Things are getting insane out there. But for us Bitcoiners, we're just kind of like, yeah, just stack Bitcoin and chill. Everything, all roads lead to Bitcoin. This is okay. I still have, whatever my holdings are in Bitcoin divided by 21 million. I will have, whatever percentage of my holdings are to that 21 million of the world capital markets in the future. All I have to do is hodl this. Look, hodling isn't easy, but it's simple. You know what you need to do. You need to save in Bitcoin. You need to correctly store that Bitcoin. And then you just don't have to sell that Bitcoin. Guys, you know the playbook now. No longer is it just coming from Opti here on Simply Bitcoin. No longer is it just coming from Bitcoin Twitter. This is the conversations happening at the nation state level. This is the conversation going on, or rather, this should be the conversation that people are paying attention to. They want to destroy the dollar in purchasing terms, try to devalue their debt away through stable coins because they need a buyer of treasuries, and that's going to make assets inflate, or rather, increase in value at an exponential level. Is this going to happen this year? I don't think so. But this is the game going on. I think this is what's going to be playing out over the next decade. So I found it super interesting that we have a Russian advisor of Putin saying exactly what we've been saying. This is the game, guys. It can't be more obvious that this is the game that's happening right now. So whether you like stable coins or not, whether you believe that they're a stepping stone to Bitcoin or not, at this point, it doesn't matter what we believe about it. All it matters is this is the plan that is in place, that is happening, and we need to save Bitcoin. This is the only way to go from here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you put it beautifully, Opti. And what I'll add on that is, this is something that we've been talking about for months now. And this is one of the other things that I just keep noticing this pattern, Opti. We've been doing this for many years together now at this point. How long have we been saying this? Like months, right? And do you hear this on legacy media? No. Do you hear this? You hear this on Simply Bitcoin, right? We've been telling you guys, like, this is inevitable. This is why they embraced the Genius Act so fast. Preston was talking about it at Baltic Honey Badger. We've played you guys a clip. And now another nation state, which isn't exactly in the best, let's just say they see the United States as a competitor, is saying, hey, listen, the reason they're embracing stable coins is they're going to use that to, essentially propagate the dollar. And if they propagate the dollar, the US government can print more money. And they're calling it out. Now, just because you call it out and connect the dots, like we have been for months now, doesn't mean it's going to change, right? Because at the end of the day, as much as Russia wants to, complain and say, hey, like, this is bad, at the end of the day, the market is determining this, because as Bitcoiners, what we really wanted, like half a decade or so before this whole stablecoin thing happened, the theory of the case was like, Bitcoin's better money. So in developing countries with double-digit inflation, people are going to adopt Bitcoin. Like, that was the theory. But as free market maximalists, that's not what happened. Bitcoin has been adopted and is widely adopted. However, what you're seeing in developing countries the most is the adoption of the dollar through Tether. Tether removes the necessity of having to go open a bank account and go through that very long process. At least in the United States, it takes about an hour to do that, versus the onboarding experience of literally downloading a wallet, right? Now, this is a Bitcoin show after all. And I think the good news here is that we've been making the case for many, many months now, I think over a year, that stable coins are essentially a Trojan horse for Bitcoin, because it gets people exposed to non-sovereign alternatives on a digital wallet. It's just one step away from them realizing what we've realized in the West, which is even the dollar is not that great of a currency because it still devaluates your purchasing power. But if you're going from a much weaker fiat currency to the dollar, it seems like you are upgrading. And in a way, you are upgrading, but it still doesn't solve the problem of inflation. Now, the geopolitical conversation about this is fascinating, right? You have one of the most powerful nation states on the world, militarily specifically, saying what we've been saying, which is crazy, right? And then also too, if you look at it from like a percentage basis, the United States owns the lion's share of Bitcoin, like of the Bitcoin supply. And if you look at the amount where the Bitcoin nodes are being run, most of them, not most of them, but a lot of the country, the biggest majority is the United States. So, again, Russia could have, if Russia wants to get ahead of this, but again, I don't know if the government is willing to, to take that type of leap. And I'm going to borrow from what Michael Saylor has said. He said it. He said it in an interview. We've played you guys the clip many times. He said, like, look, the first country that uses their central bank to buy Bitcoin is going to win. So what does that mean? That means that first country that used the money printer to buy something that has absolute scarcity is going to win. That first country is going to have the advantage that Michael Saylor has in the traditional financial markets. Michael Saylor's head start is so big that it is inconceivable that a competing treasury company is going to catch up at this point. That's the advantage of first mover advantage. Now, in the United States, despite, and I got to give credit where credit is due, Dennis Porter's doing fantastic progress on the state level. All these states are passing legislation to move forward a strategic Bitcoin reserve. And of course, the Bitcoin Senator Cynthia Lummis, we're huge fans of her here at Simply Bitcoin. And she's had so much significant progress of the strategic Bitcoin reserve bill on the federal level. Despite all those efforts, it still hasn't happened yet. That means that Russia can get ahead of the curve, technically. China can get ahead of the curve, technically. Now, will they? I don't think so. I think the US is going to be first, my opinion. And here's the thing. Technically, the United States isn't first because you have Bitcoin country, you have El Salvador, right? They have a strategic Bitcoin reserve. You have the Kingdom of Bhutan, who has 1/3 of their GDP in Bitcoin. They're mining Bitcoin to high heaven. And, so there are countries that have already moved forward with this strategic Bitcoin reserve. I guess the way to frame it is there hasn't been a powerful there hasn't been a country with a money printer with the strength of the Federal Reserve that has gone in and started buying Bitcoin. There hasn't been a country that does that. You could say the EU could do that. You could say Russia could technically do that. You could see that China could technically do that. The United States, of course. But none of those countries have done it, including the US. Now, of course, we saw the president's executive order in the beginning of the year. I think it's been a very underwhelming. I think the Trump administration is dealing with a lot of bureaucracy coming out of the Federal Reserve, like the Federal Reserve governor being asked to essentially step down, and she's kind of fighting back. And now there's a lawsuit. One Federal Reserve governor resigned earlier on in the year. So there's this kind of battle for the Fed. And if anyone doesn't remember what was happening during Operation Choke Point 2.0, a lot of those policy decisions were coming straight out of the Federal Reserve, right? So yeah, I think there's a lot of bureaucracy they're dealing with. And then also to kind of connect dots together, Bo Hines, who was really, initiating the strategic Bitcoin reserve, he resigned a couple of weeks ago. He actually joined Tether, right? Speaking of stablecoins. And the way that me and Opti kind of took that was we interpreted it as okay, I think that this strategic Bitcoin reserve initiative, I think they want it to happen, but I think that there's a lot of bureaucratic red tape that needs to be cut in order for it to happen. And I don't think people realize how much bureaucracy that is, to the point that, look, there is an executive order in the beginning of the year basically asking the federal government for them to show how much Bitcoin they have. We still don't know. We still have no idea how much Bitcoin the United States holds. We don't know yet. We were speculating that the reason that they don't want to show that is because it would indicate that they're buying Bitcoin. We don't know that. So let's see. But yes, I mean, I agree with Saylor. Max Kaiser calls the global hash war. I think eventually when push comes to shove, the first country that starts using their money printer to buy Bitcoin is going to have such a significant advantage that it's going to be very difficult for any other country to catch up. So, Russia can take action today, but I don't think the action that's necessary is you identifying, yes, that is what they're doing, but wouldn't you guys do the exact same thing? Right. Also, I do have a tweet I want to show you guys. I want to post up. It's by Peter St. Onge. He's been making incredible videos on X for a while. I think he has a show or something. But he has some great, he does have a show. And he offers incredible commentary, and he's just reacting to this, how we just reacted to this. He says, Putin advisor, U.S. will use gold and crypto to wipe out its $35 trillion debt. Peter St. Onge says he's about 85 years late. FDR already wiped it out by severing the link with gold. It's just numbers in a spreadsheet. I think this is the signal here, though. The only thing keeping it real is the Fed's reluctance to wipe out depositors who vote. And you can interpret that in many different ways, but I'll interpret that as a voting, tax-paying American. Look, a lot of the lifestyle that Americans have the privilege to have comes from the fact that the dollar is the world reserve currency, right? You know, the only difference between the Argentinian currency and the dollar is the fact that the dollar is the world reserve currency. That's the only difference. Because if it wasn't the world reserve currency, the government would print to high heaven because they can't help themselves. And what do you think would happen? A tremendous amount of inflation, right? So, you know, I just think governments can't help themselves. So, like I think if the Russian government was in a similar position where they had the global reserve currency, I think they would do exactly the same thing. But I think as an individual, you're kind of watching, you know, these governments play these geopolitical games. What I would tell you guys is like, you no longer have to kind of go along with that stuff. You do. I think you do. I think voting is still important. I know Opti is not a big fan of the system and stuff. I think voting is still important. Through voting is how we got Ross out of prison, right? But I think fundamentally, the most important vote you can make is buying Bitcoin and put it into self-custody. And, you know, that's really how you get out of the matrix. That's really how you get out of the system itself. Like, that's really how you start to put your purchasing power, your monetary energy, whatever, your work, into something that is not only not going to inflate away, it's actually going to increase in purchasing power over time, right? So, yeah, I think this is massive. But again, I think the signal to you guys is, you know, this is just going to continue to propagate, right? And the awesome part about this, you guys, is now the incentives are aligned, right? Now you have the president of the United States. It's the 6th largest Bitcoin treasury company, the Trump Media Group. I believe, if my memory serves me correctly, that's where it's at right now. That's a, like, you think that they don't want the price to go rip to 500K either? Like, you think so? Like, the vice president we know owns Bitcoin. RFK owns Bitcoin. Scott Besson is talking positively about Bitcoin. The president owns 50% of the 6th largest, you know, Bitcoin treasury company. His sons are speaking at Bitcoin conferences left and right. They own mining company. And my answer to you is like, do you not think that they want number to go up either? Of course they want number to go up, right? So the beauty about Bitcoin, we always talk about this, is alignment of incentives. And I think you have an example here of alignment of incentives. And now you have other countries kind of noticing that. But again, for you as a Bitcoiner, you win. And this actually reminds me of an article that Alex Gladstein wrote a couple years back. I think he wrote it for Bitcoin Magazine originally, but it was something along the lines of like, Bitcoin is a Trojan horse for freedom. And it was basically making the case that initially governments were going to resist Bitcoin and the Bitcoin ecosystem because it's essentially, you know, a currency outside the central banking system. But he was making the case that eventually they wouldn't be able to resist Bitcoin's incentives. And mind you, this article was written way before. This was written before Operation Choke Point 2.0, right? Like, just to kind of give you an idea of how long ago this article was written. And so far, everything's been playing out exactly like that. Like, you know, even governments just can't resist the incentives. Governments just can't resist the technology. They're going to try, mind you, they're going to try to benefit from it without, and I love how Alex put it. He says, governments want number go up without FGU. So they want NGU without FGU. So they want number go up without freedom go up. But what they don't realize is that number go up and freedom go up is inextricably linked, right? So yeah, man, this is cool. I think this tells me that we're winning. And also Opti, I mean, Simply Bitcoin, tomorrow's Bitcoin news today, bro. That's what is that? That's like another one, dude. This is another one we predicted.
Well, I just listened to the right people. Okay.
God
you guys
damn.
know I have a dropping IQ here, so I just know who to listen to. But Nico, I do want to kind of push back on one thing. A lot of Bitcoiners have been saying that once a money printer gets turned on, then of course it's like game over here for Bitcoin, or rather, once they turn the money printer on to buy Bitcoin is when it's game over. But I think what this is showing is that they don't actually have to directly print money to buy Bitcoin. All they need to do is kind of get into the private sector. And as long as they have a buyer of treasuries, they're expanding the money supply. And we're seeing that also play out in real time. You know, the Trump media group, they're all invested in Bitcoin. They have their own, I don't know what even World Liberty Financial is. You see Bo Hines essentially leaving the public sector, going into the private sector. So you're seeing that they don't necessarily need to turn on the money printer to directly buy Bitcoin. All they need is a new avenue, or rather a new buyer of treasuries here, and they will continue to expand the money supply. It's basically the same thing. And so it's very interesting that this will most likely keep the dollar going for a lot longer than we expected. And once they actually do print money to buy Bitcoin, then that's just a complete capitulation that the dollar has any value. So in the meantime, this is going to be their route around of admitting that the dollar has lost. But that just means it's better for all of us. We can acquire Bitcoin before we have to really battle a nation state in the game of accumulation. So I think it's going to take a little while before they turn on the money printers to buy Bitcoin, as long as they have a unlimited bid on treasuries, which they have now. If this works, I don't think it's going to clear out their debt, but it will kind of paper over the problem.
Yeah, I think it's a great way to like continuing to kick the, the expression kicking the can down the road. I think with stable coins, it's like another avenue to continue doing that. And I think to summarize today's intro segment, Russia has come to the realization that's exactly what the U.S. is doing. But again, we said this was going to we said this is exactly what they were doing, for about a couple months now, right? So anyways, if you guys are enjoying today's show, I think, 1,000 live viewers on YouTube alone. Wow. 116 live viewers on Rumble, and I don't see the X, but I'm assuming X is popping off as well. If you guys are enjoying today's show, you got to make sure to smash that like button. It really, really helps with the algos. We already broke 200 likes, so help us break 300 likes by the time the show ends.
500 likes.
500 likes. We got a fantastic show for you guys lined up. We have a clip from Balaji talking about essentially, Bitcoin's performance so far. We're going to cover that. Also, we have an interesting screenshot from the Journal of Risk and Financial Management. And they're basically making the case that potentially we see $1 million Bitcoin by 2027. Is that possible? Let us know down in the chat. And then Bitcoin Magazine dropped a new article. The Clarity Act draft could shield Bitcoin and crypto developers from past liability. So we're going to get into that news as well. It's going to be a fantastic show. And of course, our friends over at HIVE Digital Technologies, they continue to kick ass, and they have some breaking news that we're going to cover for you guys today. And of course, Opti's always got something special for you guys lined up during the culture segment. So that should be fantastic as well. But before we get into that, of course, you guys know the deal. We're going to be giving away some Satoshis. So you guys are going to want to stick around for the end of the show. Towards the end of the show is when we're going to be giving away some Bitcoin from using the Bitcoin Well portal. But you guys know the deal. We would not be on air today if it wasn't for our sponsors. And I do want to give a very special shout out to our sponsor, the best place to build your automatic self-custody Bitcoin stack, bitcoinwell.com. To get started, you scan the QR code on your screen. It will take you directly to the website. You put in your email address. It takes 2 to 5 minutes to get signed up. And what makes Bitcoin Well fantastic, incredible, is the fact that it's a self-custody by default Bitcoin on-ramp. What does that mean? That when you buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well, as soon as the funds clear, it goes straight to your self-custody Bitcoin wallet address, which means that they're incentivizing self-custody. If you're a higher net worth individual looking to buy $50,000 worth of Bitcoin or more, you have to check out Bitcoin Well Infinite. You're going to get a dedicated team member of the Bitcoin Well team. He's going to be assigned to you, and you can call them or text them. If you have any questions about Bitcoin at all, you can contact them and they will personally take care of you. This is designed for family offices, high net worth individuals, trusts, or organizations. The experts at Bitcoin Well will take care of you. So go to bitcoinwell.com/OTC, mention Simply Bitcoin sent you, and you are in very, very good hands, especially if you want to buy large amounts of Bitcoin. All right, everybody, let's get straight into the numbers. We have tons to talk about. We're going to be right back in just a bit. I want to give a shout out to our partner, Stampseed. Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Are your seed phrases really secure? Stampseed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you'll need for you to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates. Instead of just writing them down on paper, paper is fragile. Titanium plates are strong. Your words are actually stamped into the titanium plate with this hammer and these letter stamping tools. Once the words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamp seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They are also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and time-proof. And now you can customize your titanium seed plates. You can upload your design or logo and they will laser engrave it on the back of your seed plate, the opposite side of where the words are. Stamp your seed on Stampseed and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the stampseed.com store. All right, everybody, we are back. Scan the QR code on your screen right now. It'll take you directly to the stampseed.com website where you can use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the stampseed.com store. Again, promo code SIMPLY, 15% off. Don't write down your seed words on paper, stamp them into titanium. At the time of recording, the Bitcoin price is 112,320. Block height 913,769. Sats per dollar 890 sats per dollar. Market cap 2.24 trillion. Bitcoin versus gold market cap 8.7%. Decline from all-time high negative 9.8%. Realized monetary inflation 0.84%. In the grand scheme of things, we are just getting the party started. Anyways, I do want to share with you guys this interesting screenshot of this article. Check out the name, because I mind you, 5 years ago, we would have never got this type of coverage, right? So the Journal of Risk and Financial Management says a supply and demand framework for Bitcoin price forecasting. And here's a screenshot of a specific part of the article. It says figure 11 shows forecast prices when the demand multiplier is held constant and daily withdrawal rates from liquid supply vary. At the highest level of withdrawal, there's a clear trend from the logistic style adoption driven curve to one that starts to increase on a hyperbolic trajectory. Wow, Opti, it's almost as if you're writing these now.
Too low IQ to write a research paper.
It continues to suggest that Bitcoin will reach $1 million per coin by early 2027 for all levels of withdrawal, 1,000 Bitcoin per day, and then diverge in 2028 as supply constraints come into play. With the high levels of withdrawal, the price could reach up to $2 million by late 2027 and $5 million by early 2031. And again, this is apparently from the Journal of Risk and Financial Management. Apparently, Opti has a part-time job there because that is just mega bullish. Anyways, here's Balaji, and he's just dropping some wisdom. I believe he was like one of the first employees at Coinbase. He's very well known. He's been dropping some softs. I believe this is one of his latest podcast appearances from TFTC. And of course, Marty Bent always doing great work. So anyways, let's check out the clip and then me and Opti are going to talk about it.
Marty Maloney had the first trade, which is 0.1 cents per Bitcoin in 2009, late 2009, and now it's $100,000 plus per Bitcoin. That's 100 million X. That's actually insane. You know, do you see my thing on super Bitcoinization?
I don't think so.
So normal inflation is defined as like 2% a year, right? Which is like 0.2% a month, right? And hyperinflation is defined at 50% a month. But that's a big gap. What if you define superinflation as 5% a month? Okay. So if you take the 100 million X appreciation BTC to USD, and you take the 16 years over which that appreciation happened from 2009 to 2025, and you work out the compounding rate, it worked out to about 10.41% devaluation of the dollar against Bitcoin month over month, every month for 16 years.
That's insane.
That's insane, right? You know what that is. I mean, you're a business guy. So that means superinflation is already here, right? Bitcoin is this incredible thing because it's invisible. People really don't understand what it means for something to go up 100 million X in 16 years. It means, like, you know, I think I've said this before on other podcasts, but it's like, you know, future historians will have to tell children that Bitcoin did not arise overnight. Like, it wasn't just like a step function that just went up. Mm-hmm. That it was actually like, there are lots of setbacks and stuff in the middle. But on like a historical timescale, it's just like, as soon as Bitcoin appeared, the dollar collapsed. That's like what future historians will say.
I mean, like, okay. And again, you would say, but Nico, the dollar hasn't collapsed. And my response is like, but it has collapsed. Like, against Bitcoin, the dollar has had like one of the craziest collapses ever compared to Bitcoin, right? I mean, you know, and I think that's the point that Balaji was trying to make. And I think this is something that once you start living on a Bitcoin standard, you're going to understand this, because if you're using Bitcoin as your unit of account, of course the dollar's collapsing. Everything's getting cheaper for you if you're living on a Bitcoin standard. Why is it getting cheaper? Because the dollar is collapsing towards the price of Bitcoin. Now, not for the past year, because Bitcoin has become Bitcoin 2025, Bitcoin got tired of me and Opti talking, okay? And it said, you know what? I'm sick of Nico and Opti. I'm going to go take a vacation. And I'm going to make them talk all year about news and about all this stuff while I just chill on the beach in El Salvador, and I'll just become a stable coin in the process, right? But I'm sure the party's going to get started again eventually. Or maybe it's all over, Opti. Maybe we just got to pack it up, bro. Maybe it's done. Maybe it's done. Maybe it's over, bro. The dollar's having a weekend at Bernie's moment. I don't know if it's a moment. I think it's just consistent. So Opti, I want to get your commentary, because he was dropping bars. And of course, shout out to TFTC Marty Bent for hosting him. But dude, I've been loving where has Balaji been all my life, bro? Because he's been dropping some of the best takes. I don't know if he just came on my feed lately, bro, but this guy drops fire.
Well, I think Balaji was shitcoining for a couple of years, and then he finally came back home to Bitcoin. But yeah, in the last couple of months, last year or so, Balaji has been doing a lot of really insightful perspectives on what is going on with Bitcoin. And while he was talking, it really reminded me of one of the things I keep saying on the show constantly is, in the day-to-day, it seems like nothing's going on. It seems like nothing ever happens, right? In the day-to-day, all we're wondering is, when's Bitcoin going to start ripping? It's like, what is going on here? This is so boring. But again, when you zoom out and you look at what Bitcoin has done in the last 15, 16 years, it's really, truly incredible. And when you really frame the conversation like Balaji did, in the sense of, oh no, Bitcoin isn't going up in value. It's that fiat currencies, or the US dollar, is losing, 10% a month you really start to see what is going on here. And this is one of the conversations that Bitcoiners have been talking about forever here is not the value of Bitcoin that's going up. It's the value of the dollars losing purchasing power. And that's the game going on. And if you look back at what Bitcoin has done and you kind of place it in the context of history, you start to realize what is going on here. And you really start to grasp the importance of this whole Bitcoin revolution right now. And yes, the day to day, it's super boring. You're like, whatever, Bitcoin went up 5% and then it went down 5% and we're going sideways and nothing ever happens. It's the stick meme. Can Bitcoin do something? But we're all just waiting for another incredible parabolic run here. And even if Bitcoin doesn't have another incredible parabolic run, which I think it will, just the fact that it does have what was it, 50% CAGR, compounding annual growth rate of 50% the last 5 years. Historically, I think it's 30%. It's just Bitcoin is eating the world's lunch right now. Fiat currencies are in trouble. And if you aren't looking at Bitcoin through the monetary lens, then you really aren't understanding the paradigm shift. And this really does go back to the beginning of the show of what's going on. The old guards are still holding on to the traditional monetary mediums, which are currencies or fiat currencies, which is paper debt. And if you don't know where to look, then you're reading false economic data and you're wondering what is going on and you're using old mediums to try to store your value and you're getting wrecked. And if you are just open-minded enough to take the leap and get into Bitcoin, and then you look back at the traditional financial system, you start to realize, holy shit, Bitcoin really is taking over the world. And I do agree with his statement. When we look back on this time, I'm guessing for some of us, if you're around my age, at the end of our lives, we will fundamentally know that this was the paradigm shift. I know a lot of us think it's happening right now, and we know we're a part of it, and we understand this moment in history that we're living in. But our great-grandchildren, that's where like the meme comes from, where it's like, wait, Nico and Opti and Bitcoin Well and the Bitcoin fountains, they were giving away how much Bitcoin? Like that didn't happen because it's worth so much in their lifetimes. This is what's happening. Bitcoin is fundamentally shifting the monetary order right now. And if you aren't paying attention, you might get everything you've ever worked for wiped out in front of your eyes. This is where it's headed. Is it going to be next year, 10 years, 20 years? None of us know. But if that screenshot does play out, Nico, I guess we'll be cool. 5 million, what, by 2031? Is that what it said? 2035?
Yeah, man. I mean,
I'm with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see what happens. Let's see if these guys call it. I mean, the publication sounds super legit, bro. Like that publication, legit AF. Anyway, it sounds legit AF. I don't know. Anyways, guys, it's gonna be a fantastic show. We still got tons to cover. We have an update for you guys. The Clarity Act. So we're going to be doing a deep dive into that. Shout out to Frank Corva of Bitcoin Magazines. He's done amazing coverage on that specifically. We have an update for you guys from our friends over at HIVE Digital Technologies. They're absolutely crushing the game. In fact, I'm going to be going to one of their sites this week. Opti's going to be holding it down, and that's going to be a lot of fun. So, yeah, guys, it's going to be a great show. And of course, we're going to be giving away some Bitcoin towards the end of the show via Bitcoin Well, and then also Opti, of course. Opti, what do you have to cover during the culture segment for everybody watching?
I have more data and more dots connecting and explaining the fact that we're probably in a recession type scenario, potentially a Great Depression type scenario.
Wait, why? No, we
got to,
bro. We didn't even have a bull market yet, bro. You're like buzzkill.
Oh no, this is going to be a bull market for us because everything's going to collapse and it's going to have to find a home. It's going to be Bitcoin. It's actually bullish. I'm just trying to warn people. Hey, things aren't what they seem, and you probably need some Bitcoin.
Yeah. Well, that's a little bit of.
I'm going full doomer today. It's Monday. I'm hurting from the gym. I'm seeing data that makes me think things are blowing up.
A little bit of a bummer. Anyways, guys, it's going to be a fantastic show. You guys are going to want to stick around. We still have a ton to cover. If you guys are enjoying the show so far, make sure to smash that like button. 952 people watching live on YouTube, about 100 or so watching live on Rumble, and about 1,700 or so watching live on X. A lot of people watching. Smash that like button. You're listening to Simply Bitcoin. We're going to be right back in just a bit. We have tons of things to cover, so you're going to want to stick around.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, Ledin, the leader in Bitcoin-backed loans. Unlock the liquidity in your Bitcoin without having to sell your Bitcoin. They've issued $9 billion in loans to over 10,000 customers since 2018. I absolutely love these guys. Not only do I have an account with them, but I also have a loan. And what I love about them is that there are no monthly payments, and you could pay back the loan at any time. As soon as you send your Bitcoin as collateral, you'll have cash in your account within 24 hours. Over 1,000 five-star customer reviews, and they've never lost a single dollar or sat of customer money. Go to learn.ledin.io/simply today, and you'll get 0.25% off your first loan. I want to give a shout out to our partner, sat123.com. Sovereignty isn't just about your money. It's about your communications too. When the grid goes down, most people go dark. Cell towers fail in hurricanes, cyber attacks, and blackouts. But satellite phones, they don't rely on local infrastructure. Iridium has 77 satellites in orbit, giving you a direct line anywhere in the US, even offshore. If you hold your own Bitcoin keys, you should hold your own comms too. Sat123.com also has everything you need to start building your Bitcoin citadel. Starlink, battery backups, Faraday bags to protect your hardware wallets, and much, much more. It's a one-stop shop for anyone serious about resilience and off-grid independence. Stay connected, stay independent, stay sovereign. Go to sat123.com/simply today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the store.
All right, everybody, we are back. Scan the QR code on your screen. Sovereignty isn't just about your money. It's about everything else as well. Get started at sat123.com/simply, and you'll find everything you need to start your Bitcoin citadel right there, whether it's a battery backup, Starlink, satellite phones. Again, want to become a sovereign individual, the full package. Anyways, breaking news. New Clarity Act draft could shield Bitcoin and crypto developers from past liability. Interesting. On Friday, the U.S. Senate Banking Committee released its latest draft of the Clarity Act, in which it proposes an amendment to 18 U.S. Code 1960A, stipulates that only crypto developers or providers that knowingly exercise control over currency, funds, or other value that substitutes for currency be treated as money transmitting businesses. This is a massive, massive win, because a lot of the things that the previous administration was arguing is that, hey, listen, and again, it doesn't count. Like, okay, you can make an argument that a Bitcoin miner is a money transmitter. You can make an argument that that a Bitcoin node, again, you have a copy of the Bitcoin, of the whole Bitcoin blockchain, right? So you can make an argument for that, right? And I think that's where it was heading, by the way. And they first started with, Tornado Cash. They set a precedent. As soon as that happened, they went to Samurai. That set another precedent. Those cases are still, in litigation. And like, it was a slippery slope. And I remember I was getting so freaked out because, again, what they were trying to do is they were trying to set a precedent that open source software can be sanctioned, right? You know what else is open source software? This is Bitcoin, right? So you know where this is going, right? Which is the whole purpose of the Clarity Act, right? It's in the name. It provides clarity about what is a money transmitter and what isn't a money transmitter. And again, that, it is not going to allow, especially if it's done through the legislative process, it's not going to allow a potentially future administration to go after the industry because they feel intimidated by it, right? So this is fantastic news. Anyways, more specifics. What is more, this amendment would not only protect Bitcoin and crypto developers in the wake of a bill with this language included in its passing, but it would also protect said developers retroactively, meaning developers in the past that have written software, incoming administrations wouldn't be able to go after them. Again, from a libertarian type of small government minded person, I believe that. How do I say this? I believe in individual liberties. I believe individuals having liberty and being able to have more control over their lives leads to more prosperous outcomes for society. I believe that, and then it's a personal opinion, but I think this is a really positive development. In section 501 of section title V of the draft, entitled, quote, protecting software developers and software innovation, it states that, quote, this section and the amendments made by this section shall apply to conduct occurring before, on, or after the date of enactment of this act. It goes on to say a positive, this is what I was trying to connect the dots earlier on, a positive development for Tornado Cash developer Roman Storm. If this language is included in a version of the bill that is enacted into law, Tornado Cash developer Roman Storm, who was found guilty of operating an unlicensed money transmitting business last month, stands to benefit. Storm has alluded to the notion that he plans to appeal the guilty verdict, as per reporting by Eleanor Tourette. Again, I think, and Auntie and I have been doing this for a little bit, I think there's a lot of negotiation that was happening in the background. I don't think this wording was included in the bill just by mere coincidence. I think that the Tornado Cash case and the Samurai case were massive, because it wasn't the cases themselves, even though, again, I think that developers shouldn't be responsible. It's like it's the same free speech argument. Like, you're going to go after developers because they're writing code. Like, you can make it. What is code? Like, code is speech. So, like, it's a very slippery slope, in my opinion, right? But I don't think it's a coincidence that, again, they add these retroactive protections. I don't think that's a coincidence, right? I think that there's definitely some lobbying pressure, specifically from our industry, which I think is a good thing. And obviously, it's putting in that language there. This is incredibly important. And again, this is a major green flag for any developers or any Bitcoin businesses in the United States that have hesitancy about just setting up shop here because of the previous administration's actions with Operation Choke Point 2.0. It continues to say, if clarity becomes the law and the language regarding retroactive developer protection is included in the draft of the bill that passes, Storm's legal team should theoretically have no issue winning as at the appellate level. It goes on to say, unfortunately, if clarity passes with the retroactive protections included, this will not help Samurai wallet developers who accepted a plea deal for operating an unlicensed money transmitting business in July. Further protection for developers of non-custodial crypto tech. The most recent draft of Clarity also stipulates that developers or providers of non-controlling crypto technology should not be treated as money transmitting businesses. I mean, I could have told you, like, yeah, this is obvious, but again, it's important. It's important to codify this so that an incoming administration doesn't just sign an executive order and saying, "Hey, listen." Those hardware wallets, those wallets that you're developing that allows people to take self-custody, that's money transmitting, right? Like, the current regulations weren't built for Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin's a peer-to-peer money, right? They were built for a system that always had middlemen and intermediaries, right? This would also be applied retroactively. Non-controlling developers, are defined as those who create or work on distributed ledger services that in the regular course of operations does not have the legal right of the unilateral and independent ability to control, initiate upon demand, or effectuate transactions involving digital assets to which users are entitled without the approval, consent, or direction of any third party. The definition applies to developers of crypto services, software, or hardware that helps customers facilitate the self-custody and safekeeping of digital assets. What comes next? Congress comes back into session as of September 2nd, 2025, and the U.S. Senate Banking Committee plans to continue to prioritize clarity after accepting input on the bill from many members of the crypto industry. Quote, this legislative draft reflects feedback from hundreds of stakeholders on a wide range of questions as part of the request for information on the July discussion draft. A spokesperson from the Senate Banking Committee told Bitcoin Magazine. Chairman Scott, Senator Lummis and their colleagues will continue working in a bipartisan way to deliver a final product that will protect investors, foster innovation, and keep the future of digital finance anchored in America. So I find that quite interesting that they included that. But before I get Opti's thoughts on that, I do want to give a quick update from our friends over at HIVE Digital Technologies. HIVE August 2025 production highlights. They've mined 247 Bitcoin, average daily production 8 BTC per day. Hash rate average of 60.3 exahashes, peak of 18.1 exahashes, fleet efficiency 18.5 J/TH, BTC per exahashes 15.2. So Hive is absolutely deploying this hash rate at record pace, man. It's incredibly impressive, and I'm super bullish on them. Anyways, Opti, what's your take on the Clarity Act, man? It's crazy. We went from feeling like we were under attack from all the angles and all the spaces. It was getting really dark. This time last year, we were like seriously considering El Salvador. I still love El Salvador, of course, but like we were like, dude, like we might be persecuted. Like what's going on here? And then talk about a complete 180, because that's what this is. This is a complete 180-degree turn in terms of policy. And yeah, I mean, the future looks bright for Bitcoiners in the United States, especially if a lot of this legislation gets passed.
Yeah, and I think that's the big if. I would really like to see this. Obviously, this is a good step, considering a lot of the high-profile cases that we've seen were literally hinged on this exact topic. I did, though, see this really retroactively won't help the samurai guys because they already pleaded guilty. And obviously that's a shame, and that sucks for them. But I think in general, overall, if this does get passed, again, the big if this does get passed, which we are hearing rumors from both sides of the aisle saying in the U.S., this is probably, I forget the dates, but they're saying like October-ish, if not by end of year this year, that they should get this passed. At least that's what they're all saying. Maybe they're hyping this up and it won't happen this year, but hopefully it does happen really soon, and with this kind of language, because as much as I don't like regulations, I would love to see some things get actually put into law so that they won't fight us again and try to attack us again, whether Trump leaves or a new administration comes in. I obviously want to be protected here. I want to stay in America. I think if America is going to become the Bitcoin superpower of the world, then we need to be friendly towards the industry and not just speak it in rhetorical terms. We need some stuff that is actualized. And shouts out to Senator Lummis. She's been on this for a while. I'm glad that they're adding this into that bill. Now, the big if is this going to actually pass? And if it does, then we will see what actually gets put into the bill, whether this gets chopped out later or something. But I like this framing, especially that one kind of point of contention that has been the main point of contention here for all of the cases is whether someone is in control of the money directly or not. It hasn't really mattered in the courts. It's like, oh, you're a money transmitter business. You need to get these money transmitter licenses. Because you created a software, now you're liable for how someone uses this. And they're like, I don't even touch the Bitcoin. I have no control over the Bitcoin. I have no custody of these coins. And yet I'm being considered a money transmitter business. Is like, it's ridiculous. The laws do need to catch up with the technology. So I'm hoping this stuff does get passed through. And again, shouts out to all of the politicians that are pushing this through. I am kind of holding my breath on this. Whenever they pass more bills, I'm not that favorable towards it, but I really hope that this is a benefit for the industry, because we've already seen what it's done. It's been horrible. Bitcoin wallets have been leaving. Bitcoin companies have been leaving. Bitcoiners have been leaving, at least in the US and actually globally. Any country that tries to attack Bitcoin, we know Bitcoiners go where they're treated best. And I want that to be here in America. I'm an American. My family's here. I don't want to leave. But I think this is favorable. I'm leaning towards favorable. We'll see what actually passes or doesn't pass. So whenever that happens, we'll see what happens. But we do know they are back from summer vacation. So hopefully things start getting pushed through a lot quicker than this whole summer, because it's been kind of slow.
Absolutely. I 100% agree, man. Let's see. I still think we're going to have a great Q4. But we shall see. Anyways, guys, before we get into the culture, Opti's going to come in strong. He's got the culture for you. Apparently, it's going to be a little bit depressing, but it's okay. It's okay.
A little bit of a doomer.
A little bit of a doomer. I want to tell you guys about the biggest Bitcoin conference, the biggest mining conference in the world, Mining Disrupt. And usually it's hosted in Miami. It still is going to be hosted in Miami. But for the first time ever, there is going to be a conference in Dallas, Texas. That's right. Hashtag Opti's going back to Dallas. November 11th to the 13th, Mining Disrupt in Dallas, Texas. You're not going to want to miss it. Get your tickets now. Check the link in the video's description. And you guys could go there. And this is where you're going to meet all the biggest mining players across the industry. It's going to be fantastic. It's going to be fabulous. You're not going to want to miss it. Go to miningdisrupt.com. Actually, no. Go click on the link in the video description or scan the QR code. Opti's going to be there. I'm going to be there. Rustin's going to be there. Scan the QR code or check the link in the podcast description. The reason you want to use the link is because you get a discount on your tickets. So go to Mining Disrupt, or you can use promo code simplybitcoin. We hope to see you guys there. It's going to be fantastic. It's going to be awesome. Anyways, guys, you're going to want to stick around towards the end of the show. We're going to be giving away some Satoshis after the break. And of course, Opti's got the culture segment lined up for you guys. So we're going to be right back in just a bit. I want to give a shout out to our partner, HIVE Digital Technology. Why HIVE in 2025? Unstoppable growth. As the first ever public miner, HIVE's position to quadruple their global footprint, making them one of the world's fastest growing miners in 2025. And with elite operations that consistently top the industry in Bitcoin mined per exahash, HIVE's now headquartered in the USA. They're lean and mean, they're green and clean, and they're rewriting the playbook on sustainable Bitcoin mining. You can catch the latest buzz at HIVE Digital Tech or at HIVEdigitaltech.com. I want to give a shout out to our partner, BitcoinBend.io. If you're into freedom, Bitcoin, and building a real community, this is for you. Gain exclusive access to real-world, members-only, private clubs across the globe, featuring poker nights, expert-led classes, co-working spaces, educational meetups, live events, and more. Current locations include Sarasota, Nashville, Boston, Dallas, Las Vegas, and St. Louis, with new clubs launching soon in West Palm Beach, Scottsdale, Alabama, and beyond. Not to mention Bitcoin Bend's resorts in El Salvador. There's 3 of them, and they're absolutely beautiful. You'll also get access to the first fully backed Bitcoin bank with fiat ramps and savings accounts. It's called Private Key Bank,
And you guessed it, it's based out of El Salvador. Go peer-to-peer with Bitcoin bulk buys. Tap into home equity for long-term Bitcoin growth. And join their exclusive mining pools if you're interested in mining. What are you waiting for? Head over to bitcoinben.io. Join today, where Bitcoin meets freedom.
All right, everybody, we are back, and you're gonna want to stay tuned because we're gonna be giving away some sats. But first, Opti, what are we looking at, bro?
Yeah,
what are these two red bars with green in the middle? Like, what's going on?
Well, it's not good news, guys. First of all, it's not that good news, okay? So, as Nico said, what are we looking at here? So, over the last week, 198 of the top 200 insider trades were sells. In the last 2 weeks, it was 398 of 400 were all sells. The last time we saw insider dumping hit this scale was the late 1920s, right before the Great Depression. So, the top 0.001% of the world just quietly unloaded their bags. And this is a sign that they do not want to be holding equities. They are going in something safer. You could argue that they're going into gold. You could argue that maybe they're sitting on cash. We all know Berkshire Hathaway has been holding cash for a long time. But this is a sign of what is coming ahead, or rather, this is an indicator or an indirect kind of point of what these people think is coming ahead of the pipeline, or what is going to happen. If people are divesting out of their equities, getting out of treasuries, buying gold, this is the time when you should be perking your ears up. When the billionaires of the world are essentially telling you, hey, we are in a debt spiral. Remember, Ray Dalio has been beating this drum. We are in a debt spiral. This is unsustainable. The global nation debt right now is unsustainable. We can't continue what we're doing. Something needs to change. This is a sign of, hey, there's probably a big problem going on. Now, a lot of people, we covered this last year, this idea that we're probably already in a recession, or rather have been in a recession since 2020. Remember, they changed the terms of what a recession was. Usually it's if you are in 3 down quarters, then you are officially in a recession. Well, no, they came out, remember, and it's like, that's not what a recession is, guys. We're not in a recession. We also got job numbers in the US are down. They've been revised down by 1.1 million since February 2022. Again, these are the biggest drawdown revisions since the great financial crisis. All of this is saying to me things are not as they seem, and there may be some kind of turmoil. And I saw this video this morning. I couldn't find it. I guess I didn't like it on Twitter. But one of the big podcasters, he's a British guy. I forget what his name is. He did a whole video about this exact thing, that he's having these conversations with billionaires, in particular one Ray Dalio, and he's saying that they are panicking behind the scenes, that there is something coming down the pipeline that could potentially be worse than the Great Depression, a super Great Depression, a actual financial recession, but a global recession, global depression. And when you're seeing people sell all of their bags right now, if they're getting out of their equities, it's not a good sign. And then the economy globally is in the wrecks because of national debt. Debt is at an all-time high in the Western world, and they need to find a solution. And this is why you're probably seeing gold start to spike up, is because people don't want to hold government debt right now. There's no returns, and they're talking about lowering those returns. So people are going into the safest bets, which is usually gold. To us, we would say it's Bitcoin. And then I saw this, which is pretty interesting. I can't confirm this, but apparently that banks in the UK are going to be closing retail customers as of October 9th, 2025. So it seems like Europe is doing some form of capital controls. We are starting to see in the US, the biggest, most richest people in the world are divesting out of their equities. We're seeing a push towards CBDCs globally in the Western world. We've seen it get pushed in China. All of this is indicators for me, and I've been covering all the other indicators.
But this is a rumor, to be specific, right?
This last one's a rumor. Yeah, this last one's a rumor. But it basically just shows that there is some bumpy waters ahead for everyone. And of course, as we know with Bitcoin, if there is bumpy waters in traditional markets, then Bitcoin might rebound, or might drop faster, but rebound better. And I think Bitcoin's still going to go up by the end of this year. But essentially what we're seeing is there's a lot of concerns going on at the highest levels. And if you are looking at the same, board game that we are, I personally think there's only one thing to be buying right now. Of course, this is Bitcoin. And as we're seeing from the beginning, there is a debt problem going on in all of the Western world, and they're trying to find solutions. I don't want to get caught up in their solutions. Remember the last solution in 2008? If we are on a great financial crisis type level, remember the last solution in 2008? We basically all get wiped out, and then the richest people, they get a bailout. So this is what Bitcoin was designed for. Yes, it's going to be rocky. Yes, it's going to be uncertain times, but this is why you need a good money. When times are uncertain, this is when you need the best money, the perfect money, which is Bitcoin. Now, there is some interesting stuff coming up. Shouts out to Jim618. He's an OG Bitcoiner. He's been doing great work on Twitter. He summed it up right here. So heads up, this was last night. Heads up, this Wednesday and Thursday will bring key U.S. inflation numbers and producer price data, pivotal for the Fed's next move on interest rate cuts. Wednesday, September 10th, brings the producer price index, PPI, and wholesale inventories data, important for gouging inflation upstream. And then Thursday, September 11th, sees the release of the CPI and core CPI for August, the final inflation snapshot before the Fed's decision, September 17th of next week. So, hey, we'll see what happens in a week's time or so if they cut interest rates. If they don't, we'll see what goes on. If they do, we're going to see how the markets react, whether this is a kind of a moment where people feel a little safer to start deploying their capital. We will know this basically in a week from now. If we do get an interest rate cuts, usually that means that people are going to deploy their money back into a little bit riskier assets to get better returns. Obviously, I think that's going to be a good case for Bitcoin. The more liquidity in the system, the more it's got to find a home. And I believe there's really only two choices. It's Bitcoin and gold. If you're a boomer, TradFi, more conservative, you're probably going to be buying gold. But as we know as Bitcoiners, historically, Bitcoin responds better than gold. So I think things are setting up for a good run in Bitcoin. But I know this is doomerish, because there is great concern. And of course, if there is a great depression, great financial crisis on the horizon, Bitcoin's not going to be able to get spared here. I think, Bitcoin will react. Usually Bitcoin reacts ahead of these different crises going on. But I think this is in the long run going to be a good thing for Bitcoin. If people start to lose trust in these institutions, start to lose trust in fiat currencies, then they're going to be looking for alternatives. So in the short term, I think Ray Dalio was saying 3 to 5 years, we might be seeing some debt crises going on, debt spiral happening. I think Bitcoin will respond really good in all those times. Obviously, it might be a little brutal in the short term, but long term, the number goes up. But I'm seeing a lot of this economic data. Kobayashi Letter has been doing really good work as well. It's starting to show, hey, people are panicking. Now, what's this mean for you is this might be the time to position yourself. And as we saw in the great financial crisis, many millionaires were made during the great financial crisis. And now we're seeing, hey, we might be on another horizon. We know the boom bust cycle happens all the time. Now's the time to position yourself. And personally, I think Bitcoin's the best position to be in. That's the only position that I'm in. That's the only position I think I would recommend to my friends and family. But yeah, it looks like things are getting a little heated out there, Nico. If people are divesting this hard, it's not making me feel that good about what is coming out of all these financial numbers. We know the books are cooked. Literally cooked, not like in Gen Z kind of perspective here. We know the data is being manipulated right now to basically convince you that the economy is doing well. But if you think about in your own life how you are, if you're not already a Bitcoiner, if you haven't been a Bitcoiner for a long time, then you're probably struggling right now. I'm sure your friends and family are struggling, but for us Bitcoiners, We're just trying to figure out how to make more cash so that we can buy more Bitcoin. This is the safety boat. This is what we've been talking about for a long time. So again, I'm not trying to be a doomer that it's happening this year. Things are going to blow up, but these are concerns that people should be paying attention to. And if you watch, the corporate press and normal financial channels, they'll be like, oh, you'll be good to go. Just buy gold. And it's like, yeah, maybe, but why not pick the best horse in the race, which is Bitcoin? You probably want to buy some Bitcoin. And actually, this kind of does bring me back to the whole S&P 500 thing that happened over the weekend. There was a lot of rumors that Strategy was going to get added to the S&P 500. It didn't happen. There's still a chance in October for that to happen. But I think this is a pretty good pulse check or a vibe check of what Wall Street actually thinks about Bitcoin. Like this company I've never heard of got added. We saw Robinhood get added. Strategy outperformed all of them and they still didn't get added. So it just goes to show, yes, Wall Street is here. Yes, people are taking interest in Bitcoin, but we haven't fully won the culture war yet. We haven't fully won the mind share yet. And that's just an opportunity for all of us here. If everyone was piling into Bitcoin right now and it was the most crowded trade in the market, then it's probably not the best trade. This is still an opportunity. This is still asymmetric opportunity. You do need to kind of make some contrarian moves right now. If everyone's going to pile into just the standard investments, quote unquote, then it's probably not going to give you that much returns. But that's why I think Bitcoin's going to rip.
Yeah. I mean, I think, kind of connecting the dots here with what you've been covering regarding, a lot of these very wealthy countries having trouble selling bonds. And then, the kind of situation that Larry Lepard and Lynn Alden and James Lavish have been talking about in regards to they don't have any other option but to print, right? And the reality is that when they print money, hard assets are going to do fantastic. I think that's why the price of gold has been performing so well. I think that's why Bitcoin has been performing so well. But the vast majority of people don't have the means to meaningfully save in assets, right? So, their purchasing power is just going to get devalued like crazy. And I think that could be really, really bad. So yeah, I mean, now do I know if it's going to, the thing is, like, the thing about recessions and depressions, like, if everyone knew about them, like, they would be able to time them and make a fortune, but it kind of comes out of nowhere. Right. And then you see it in hindsight. You're like, of course, like what they were doing with mortgages was crazy. Obvious. Like, duh. But like trying to predict it is trying to predict markets is impossible. Like you can pull up the data and, make a very good case for things. But it's an impossibility. But what I will say is, like, if we talk about the things that we know are for certain, we know that the United States is on an unsustainable fiscal situation. I think they're going to kick the can down the road to kind of weave it back in with what we were talking about in the beginning of the show. They're going to kick down the can using stable coins. I think that's going to buy them a lot of time, to be honest with you. But I think they're going to have to print. I think eventually they're going to have to print. And I think, Powell's going to lower rates in September, which is going to be fantastic for assets. And yeah, but I will say, like, it is kind of scary. Like the debt, 37, what was it? Opti, it was something ridiculous.
37 trillion.
I have to look at this.
Here, I'll pull it up. I got it. 37 and a half ish.
Is it really? Or is that the GDP?
37.45. Debt clock right here.
That's crazy, bro.
And then unfunded debt, 104.3 trillion.
Oh wow, 37.5. That's wild, huh?
Yeah, totally sustainable, Nico.
That's wild.
And what, the interest payments are 1 trillion. It's getting crazy, really? Boys. Yeah, right here. Is it really? Bottom right here. Super chill. Literally interest payments higher than defense spending. Totally sustainable, boys. and girls. You probably want some Bitcoin.
That's crazy, bro. Huh? That's crazy. We got to pull this up. Yeah. That's wild. Wow. Okay.
Or, I mean, total debt, 104 trillion. Guys, do you even know how big a trillion is? It's huge. It's insane. What's Lynn Alden always says? They can't stop this train. Whereas Larry Lepard said, big print is coming.
Yeah.
And if we're seeing all these indicators from people that they're moving away from, they're getting scared, the big print might be sooner than we think.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that, man. I mean, you look at those numbers, it's crazy. I mean, just to give you guys a frame of reference, right? The GDP of El Salvador is like something like, it's like $32 billion. And here's the U.S. government like paying $1 trillion with a T in interest on a yearly basis is wild. Anyways, guys, we're going to be giving away some Satoshis via our friends over at Bitcoin Well. This is the Bitcoin Wishing Well contest. Every time you buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well, you earn something called Bitcoin Well points. And you could use those points towards a variety of different prizes, or you can redeem them towards the Bitcoin Wishing Well contest, which we're going to be doing live for you guys right now. We just tossed a coin into the Wishing Well. Get your Lightning wallets ready. First person to scan today's QR code has won 657 Satoshis. So again, go to bitcoinwell.com/simply today. And by using that link specifically, you get 3 tosses into the Wishing Well. Every single toss, you win sats, but every single toss, you have an opportunity to win up to 1 million Satoshis. That's like over $1,000 these days. So just for signing up and buying Bitcoin, like it's a win-win. So go to bitcoinwell.com/simply today. All right, everybody, that was today's show for September 8th, 2025. I'm going to be traveling. I'm going to be out of town for the week, but don't worry. Opti is going to be holding it down from Tuesday to Friday. So we're going to be having amazing shows with Luke, with Sophie. Everyone's been asking for Sophie. Don't worry, she's coming back. She's been traveling with me. Yes, so I'm going to be out of town for the rest of the week. Don't worry, I'll be back next Monday. Me and Opti are going to be doing the shows together again, which I'm really excited about. And Opti, I think this is the month. We might have a surprise for you guys. I think you guys will enjoy as well. So if you guys enjoyed today's show, again, September 8th, 2025, make sure to smash that like button. Consider subscribing if you feel like we provided you value. I'm your host, Nico. This is my legendary co-host, Nihilus Fields, for today. We're Simply Bitcoin, and we'll see you guys tomorrow for a brand new episode. Take care, everybody.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.